Good afternoon. Welcome. I love this. I love this fellowship. Us gathering here today to share in the joy, the genuine love we all had for Kyle, our dear friend, our family member, our fellow congregant here at St. Francis. Thank you to St. Francis for hosting this, and for Reverend Mary for the beautiful words today at the service. If you weren't able to sign the guest book, please do so. It's on the pedestal over here, and please be sure that you sign. I have a few words written on a page, but these are not words of my own. These were shared by many of us over 10, 20, 30 years of a collegial relationship with Kyle, a friendship, a member of our family. And I just want to put my glasses on first so I can actually read what I'm seeing. We all knew many Kyles. I'm not talking about the thousands of Kyles that gather at the International Kyle Festival held every year in Kyle, Texas. I'm talking about the many facets of Kyle. And I know some of you will appreciate that I'm going to spell each of these coming keywords and themes with the letter K. Many of us first met Calculus Kyle. We met him as grad students at NC State. Some of us had what we thought was strong math and statistical skills from college. I minored in math. I was on the math team in high school. I lettered on the varsity math team. But none of us knew math like Kyle knew math. Kyle was math. He saw nature in numbers and equations. He obsessed over solving complex scientific problems with profound and unending curiosity. From his dissertation on the tiny rotifer, to dozens of papers on fisheries, to even charismatic sea turtles. Over 100 papers and even recognition from the President of the United States for science supporting better management for fisheries. His colleagues and collaborators hold the papers that they have with Kyle as some of their greatest contributions to the field. And we sought out ways to collaborate with Kyle again and again. Critically thinking through the real problem, redefining it, and defining the approach, producing magic with a few elegant lines of code, and conveying the results with beautiful writing. He solved our problems with math many of us didn't fully understand, but convinced us that we did it ourselves. He reminded us to stay above the emotions, the bureaucracy, the politics that is ever present in fisheries science. The models and the data will tell the story. And to always respect the process, and most important, respect and honor the people that are in the process. He made us all better scientists and advocates for science. Maybe a new camping Kyle. Spending countless nights in the Northwoods and even overwintering, dog sledding and trapping, Kyle loved the outdoors and camping. We would spend nights camping with our families in the early days, telling stories and jokes. One goes, one smart fellow, he felt smart.
Two smart fellows.
Thank you. And so on. Or walking down a mountain trail, the adults a safe distance behind our then young children, admiring their bravery, their commitment, and their determination. Late evening sipping whiskey, talking about how awesome we were at being parents. Could he make bacon at a campsite? No, he could not. Camping bacon was not one of Kyle's skills. Maybe you knew Coach Kyle. Picking up soccer at a young age, his father, Howie, picked up the sport as a coach at the same time. He played in college at Xavier and club and grad student at State. I was coaching my boys, Kai and Lucas, in U8 soccer, and Kyle was coaching Eliza's team. We decided to have a good old-fashioned boys v. girls game. Our boys team crowded around the ball like caffeinated puppies. I was exasperated, shouting to get their attention and focus. But like their coach, the girls were focused, calm, and they beat the stinking pants off of me. He continued to play soccer in the adult leagues around town with many of you, and throughout, like he was as a coach, he was understated and always made plays that made other members of his team look good. Maybe you know catcher Kyle. Noting I said catcher and not fisher. Kyle was one of those horseshoe of good luck, at least when I went out fishing with him. I know a good fisherman when I see one, and I know when I see a mediocre fisherman. And I'm just glad that my family doesn't depend on my hunting, fishing, and gathering skills. Kyle and Jimmy were on board when we caught our first wahoo on our new boat. He caught the largest bull drum on another boat. He even caught an infamous red snapper. And this one time out in Beaufort Inlet, I think during one of our furlough fishing trips on a blustery October afternoon, the bluefish were blitzing the surface and large green-tailed white shrimp were popping. We had caught a few blues and Kyle reached over the side of the boat and like a darn ninja, caught a single shrimp with his bare hand. We were both stunned. He apparently really enjoyed that shrimp and grit that night. Maybe you know culinary Kyle. He wasn't afraid to try making or tasting anything. He taught some of us how to brew beer. We shared recipes for smoking fish and blending some crazy hot sauces. He even decided to roast coffee one time. He almost burned down his house. He didn't roast coffee anymore. But he was good at other things, like gourmet hot dogs with an odd chili from Cincinnati. So that's fine. Maybe you know composer Kyle. Soon after Kyle moved down to the coast for a postdoc, I was surprised to see him walking across the parking lot. I was even more surprised to find him jamming with other friends at a local coffee house playing bass. A reluctant musician as a child in a house full of musicians, he picked up the bass late but put it to good use. From algorithms with his brother and family and friends, to backing Kudabai and Big Tree, and even singing one of our favorite cake songs at one of our pig pickins, the dessert pork. He was immensely proud of his daughters, Claire and Eliza and Jimmy, for their amazing musical accomplishments. How were those accomplishments recognized? With high praise, a pat on the back, and sometimes clucking like a chicken. Loud, awkwardly loud so the entire marching band could hear it. If we may have a demonstration. Schertzers, 1, 2, 3. Maybe you know Christian Kyle. Raised in the Jewish tradition, he was baptized as an Episcopalian. That Sunday, we were witness to a bright light in Kyle's eyes and a warmth in his smile, surrounded by the life of this entire family at this church. We share the same sense of faith that is represented in a community of people that want to lift each other up, to make a better life for them, no matter their background or abilities. He had so much kindness and compassion to give. Unfortunately, we got to know cancer Kyle. This Kyle was the hardest for us to accept. During coffee, at mugshots, or a visit to the house, we would dispense with the how you feeling part and move on to bragging on our kids in college, knowing that they were kicking butt as always. And then we would move on to the more interesting stuff and the real problems, science, math, and the politics of fisheries. This phase of Kyle reminded us of the power and commitment he gave to each of us in spite of his pain. No matter the difficulties, he continued to be brilliant and a critical thinker, a collaborator, a mentor, a bandmate, and a teammate. And even finding time to give back to the community during his hardest times, volunteering at our local emergency food pantry. Always being that role model and that inspiration for all of us. We've all been transformed by companion Kyle, a son, a brother, a husband, a father and stepfather, a dear friend. He is a mentor and role model for many of us. His love was deep and genuine. We would ask often, what would Kyle do in this situation? Kyle set the bar for what it meant to be a companion to lift each of us up. We were better scientists, better brewers, better soccer players, and better humans for knowing these many Kyles. His humor, dry as a desert. Was he a big hugger? No, he was not. But he sure expressed his genuine love for each of us in his own way. Kyle's awesome, and he made us all, well, awesomer. So Clara, Eliza, Jackie, Jimmy, Ellen, Howard, and Kevin, thank you for sharing all of these many Kyles with us. We're all better individuals and a stronger community of friends and family because of him. Thank you.
Here we go. Are we on? Okay, this annotates Kyle's math. So he's in Xavier. And he comes home at the end of his first year and he says, I did it. And I said, can't hear? The heck with Mike. I'm a university teacher. I could cut through any crowd. So Kyle comes home after his first year at Xavier. And I said, well, what did you learn? He said, I just finished 2 semesters of math. I learned that 1 + 1 = 2. I said, I knew that 1 + 1 = 2. He said, no, you didn't. He said, you didn't prove it. Can you prove it? No, I couldn't prove it. So, but he proved it, and that was great. So here's a story I'd like to share. So when they were little, Kyle, Kevin, me would go out fishing at East Fork, a lake near Cincinnati. And we bought a boat, and Kyle named the boat Ed. So we took Ed, and we went fishing a lot. So one morning, I'm sleeping, Saturday morning, Kyle comes in, and he says, Dad, today we're taking you fishing. He's 16, he just got his license. I said, you're taking me fishing, that's great. So he hitched up the boat, packed the lunch, put in the gear, pulled me out of bed, and of course, and groggy and stuff. I need coffee. He says, no time, gotta fish. So off we went fishing. So we get to East Fork. I do nothing. He's taking me fishing. We take Ed out. We're out on the boat, and I never really liked to fish, but he was fishing. So Ed had this bow, and I just sleep on the bow. So I went to sleep on the bow, and Kyle and Kevin are fishing. All of a sudden, the boat starts moving. Kyle starts the motor, and he's going crazy, and he's trying to knock me off the bow. So I'm grabbing the windshield, and my legs are flying off one side. And I got the windshield, my legs are flying off the other side. I said, Kyle, stop, Kyle, stop. But Kyle's laughing, he's laughing his head off. And he wouldn't stop, and I just prayed, oh, windshield, please don't fall off the boat. The only thing keeping me here. So finally, we ran out of gas, and I was saved. And we found a tow. Somebody towed us in. That was really nice. So I thought Kyle got it out of his system. Well, no, Kyle doesn't get anything out of his system. Fast forward 30 years, we're up in Ely, and now we have a boat. We're out on the lake. So Kyle got a raft so he could tow Eliza and James and Clara around on the raft, and we're on this boat. So we get out, they go on the raft, Kyle drives the boat. Oh, it's so nice, beautiful day, beautiful day. All of a sudden, Kyle got a look on his face. I says, oh no, I know, I've seen that look 30 years ago. I saw that look. So he spent, I think, the entire week, his mission in life was to knock him off the boat. I think, well, he never got James off the raft. I mean, but I looked back, I could see his legs are flying out, and I said, oh, yeah, I know what he's thinking, what he's feeling. He got somebody off the raft once. It took a week. It took a week. He got Clara to fall off the raft. It was a once. Yeah, I didn't. So anyway, that was fun. And that was Kyle. I think Steve Crittenton, who's been Kyle's lifelong friend of, he's only like, 55, but I think they've been friends for 60 years.
So Kevin and I were just talking a moment ago, and I know that if any of you have been around Kyle, you've always heard about his time in Minnesota. And you may have heard about this guy named Steve, who he hung out with a lot in Minnesota on a lot of those adventures. So I've decided to change my last name to Steve from Minnesota, and not Steve. So I think that would be helpful for people to associate who the heck this guy is. Talking about Kyle and I's relationship, dating back to 1990, 1991, somewhere in there. We were both college kids, kid from Ohio, going to Xavier, kid from Illinois, going to college in Iowa, and we both met at this place in Ely, Minnesota, which is the very northern part of Minnesota by the Canadian border. And we happened to land working at the same outfitter together. And literally within minutes of meeting each other, we just kind of hit it off. But we were working on the docks, we were doing whatever we were doing, and kind of life went on. I was like, hey, that's kind of a cool guy. Later on that evening, I see him, when he was done working, he's cruising down the shoreline in his little 12-foot, 14-foot John boat. I see.
Okay.
Kyle coming around the corner, and I see he's casting the shoreline, and he's trying to catch fish. And then I see this big lump in the side of his mouth. And so any of you who know Kyle from a fishing standpoint, he used to like to chew a little bit, some beech nut on me. I said, "Hey, what you hacking?" And he goes, "Beech nut." And I said, "I like beech nut." And he goes, "You wanna go fishing?" And I said, "Yeah, I wanna go fishing." So he goes, "Well, go grab your pole." Stops at the dock, grab my pole, we go in, and we start off and literally fishing together, casting, fishing for bass, like we had been fishing together our whole lives. And from that point forward, we just became instant friends. And our friendship really, really sped up probably about 3 days later. We actually had some scheduled time off, and I'm gonna hopefully give the PG version of this story. And we decided, hey, let's go camping. Let's go into some random lake that we picked that nobody else is possibly in, so we could go get away from people and just fish. And it was a warm day in Minnesota. We would consider it a hot day in Minnesota. It was 80 degrees. I know folks down here are used to much more. But when you're in a tent at night and it's 80 degrees, a sleeping bag, whatnot, you tend to, if you're warm, you tend to maybe sleep with the minimal amount of clothing possible. And that's what we were doing. So just like we had always hung out together and been together many times. And as we're laying in the tent at night and just kind of listening to the millions of mosquitoes that are bouncing off the tent, all of a sudden, Kyle pops out of his sleeping bag and rolls over directly on top of me, parallel to me. And I've known this guy for all of 3 days. And I was a college wrestler, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I gonna do next? And then Kyle starts making sounds, the kind of sounds that sounded good. And I'm like, oh gosh, what's going on here right now? And then he goes, oh, my back. And he's like, what's wrong with your back? And he goes, I'm having back spasms. And he could not get off of the top of me. And we're in our underwear. There's no way to beat this thing. We're in our underwear. And he starts having such bad spasms he can't move. So eventually we get him off to the side. And he's like, I need you to stretch out my back. And so I'm like lifting legs up and doing different stuff to help him stretch out his back. And from that moment on, we were connected at the hip. Literally connected at the hip. Willing to help each other any way we could. And that really led to journeys and exploration together that is lifelong. And we've always been connected since then. And the one thing that always came with that was always laughter. We always found something to laugh at. We could be in the worst rain possible, downpour, and it's coming through our rain gear, and we're like laughing, it's starting to come through, no big deal. Or the big waves, no matter how bad the experience was, we just did it and we enjoyed it, and it was always fantastic. And then we brought Kevin into the mix, young Kevin, and we had a lot of fun with young Kevin. And so the three of us began these journeys together. And we really put Kevin through a hard time, and Kyle and I had a great time laughing at Kevin's expense. We would send Kevin through like the worst possible part of a portage into a swamp, and Kyle and I knew the trail around, and we'd go over to the side and we'd look, and then Kevin would look at us and he's going knee deep in swamp, and we're just laughing hysterically, like deep belly laughing, and he's yelling at us. All kinds of things. Or we'd be like, oh, this portage is really, really difficult. Kevin, you got the stuff. Kyle and I will go. And then Kevin would come across later and like, you guys, that was awful. So we just began all these series of journeys together, just exploring woods and water and fishing, and just had an amazing time. I don't know that we've ever had a bad time in a canoe together. And when you can live with people in the wilderness and develop that friendship, it's pretty special. And we continue that to today. My family from Illinois with our cabin in Minnesota, the Shertzers, their family from Ohio in Minnesota. And so we come together every year and we get to see each other. And that's a pretty special thing that you can do over a 35-year period of time. So those experiences really shaped our lives and our appreciation for our families, each other's families, and just the time that we can spend together in this world and enjoy that and laugh deeply. So if I could say anything to people about where we are today, is find that thing or experience that you have with Kyle and laugh deeply and enjoy the memories and appreciate all of those. Thank you.
I met Kyle when I was about 8 years old. We were on the soccer field, and somehow my father and Kyle's father, how we started talking, and knew that we both loved soccer so much, and he decided to start a soccer team. Some of those guys are here right over there from Cincinnati. And I could tell a lot of stories, some of them maybe not so appropriate, but we had more fun than I can remember. Hanging out at the Shertzer household was always an adventure. Never a dull moment. With Kyle, he just had an energy and that look in his eye that Howie talked about. When you saw it, you knew you had to be prepared, because you never knew what was coming next. But he had a great heart, a kind heart. One story in particular, I'll try to make it quick. We were driving to a soccer tournament, and this is just a story that we all tell. Boss Howie was always driving us to the soccer tournaments, and we would laugh at unbelievable times. Honestly, the best times of my childhood, I can say, were being a part of that team, the Shertzer family and Kyle. And we're driving down the highway, and the wheel falls off in the van. The tire didn't go flat, the wheel fell off. And we look, we dropped down, and we look back, and it's bouncing down the highway. And we're all looking at each other like, what? We're not sure what to do. We get out of the van, and the wheel stopped about half a mile down the road, and we see it sitting there. And then this old couple pulls up, stops. The guy gets out of the car, gets the wheel, takes his time, puts it into the back of his car, gets back in his car, starts driving. We're like, oh, what a kind couple. And starts driving up to us, and he keeps driving, and he just keeps on going. We're on the side of the road. Driving by, and I still, Kyle and I laugh. Kyle, or Howie chases him down the highway, screaming, "My tire!" Kyle was a special person, a unique person, so many fond memories. We miss him dearly. Thanks for letting us be a part of this, Howie, and the great time here. We'll cherish it. Thank you.
Get everybody in there.